Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto travel back in time to save Uzumaki clan, part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now start the fanfic. He will be Danzo. Him and his entire team are going to killed. For the good of Konoha naturally. Still, Tsunade will be upset over the loss, replied Hiruzen while Danzo scoffed at him. Senju or not, the boy is a tool just like Tsunade. All must be sacrificed for the good of Konoha, remarked Danzo while mentally adding, except myself, in that sentence. Careful Danzo. I might send you on an important mission where you don't come back, said Hiruzen while Danzo scowled further. Unlikely Hiruzen. Like you, I am a tool handler. A weapon user. We are immune from such things. We use, mold, and break tools or weapons how we see fit. Everyone around us are expendable assets for the greater good. The only difference between us, my friend, is I can admit my feelings on the matter, countered Danzo while Hiruzen turned to look at him. Unlike you Danzo, I at least try to show some form of respect to those who I have sent to their deaths. You do not. That is why I am the Hokage and you are not. Hiruzen shot back with Danzo snarling a bit at him. I still say Tobirama chose poorly, remarked Danzo while Hiruzen smirked. Considering it was the three of us that day, I think your opinion on the matter is rather biased, countered Hiruzen before walking away. With Yamamoto -1 week later. Yamamoto was sitting in a local bar, drinking some soothing tea when he saw the boy enter with his team. He could actually see why Tsunade thought his old self looked like her little brother. The similarities were indeed so close you would think the boy and one Uzumaki Naruto were actually brothers if they were both together in the same room around the same age. Senju Nawaki had the same shapely face Uzumaki Naruto had at that age and even the same personality when he was with his team from what Yamamoto saw during his observations of the boy. The old man actually thought for a moment his future self had actually been born ahead of schedule, but shut that thought down soon after. He also realized this was indeed a very rare and golden opportunity for him to stick it once more to Hiruzen along with the other higher-ups supporting the Hokage's less than favorable actions. It was clear to the old-looking Uzumaki ever since learning the truth about how his clan fell the first time around that the Sandaime had done other things following it that were morally unethical. The Uzumaki clan's demise was just the main one that started a long line of dominoes falling down one after the other that allowed Konoha and Konoha alone or rather the higher up within it to benefit from such actions while everyone else got the shaft. Over time, Hiruzen did things where he, Danzo, Kaharu, and Homura benefited while others lower got the shaft. Namely Jiraiya and Orochimaru, with the former being too damn loyal to fight back and the other going rogue to plot revenge under the disguise of his mentor, discovering the unethical experiments he hypocritically supported. At this moment, Yamamoto knew Senju Nawaki's death was the next domino Hiruzen was trying to knock down. Yamamoto had learned all about the boy's death when he was a full-grown Uzumaki Naruto and how Nawaki was killed the day after his birthday. A birthday Yamamoto knew was yesterday because he had been there to give the boy a beginner's guidebook on Fuinjutsu and saw Tsunade give the boy the cursed necklace. The very same one Tsunade believed was responsible in the future for the boy's death along with her future lover Dan after she had given it to the man. Yamamoto made a mental note to intervene when that happened too. I can't believe I have to go out on a mission later today. I just turned 12 yesterday. Exclaimed Nawaki after his friends left and saw down in front of Yamamoto to air his own grievance on the issue. I know. It was the same for me too on several occasions when I was young lad. Still, it just shows you the responsibilities ninja like us must take on regardless of the special events of our lives. Your enemies will not care if your birthday was today, yesterday, or even tomorrow for that matter. They will only wish to see you dead and your loved ones suffer for it. Namely your sister and your grandmother, replied Yamamoto with Nawaki sighing. Yeah, I guess you are right Yamamoto-sama. At least the mission is supposed to be easy from what the Hokage said. A quick snatch and grab of documents vital to Konoha and the war ending sooner, said Naoki while having heard of Yamamoto in the past and seen how he acted with others in Konoha. The man was not one to be disrespected and Naoki had no intention of doing that. Never assume anything, Naoki. I had several easy missions assigned to me when I was a few years older than you. They turned out far more complicated and dangerous than my team thought. Always be aware of your surroundings and always treat a mission outside these walls seriously regardless of the rank. Your C rank mission can easily turn into an A if not S rank mission. Especially during times of war, explained Yamamoto before flicking the boy in the forehead with his index and middle finger. Ow. Okay, I get it. No need to be mean, old man Yama, whined Naoki with Yamamoto smirking at him. If I wanted to be mean, little Naoki, I would tell your sister you were in the hot springs earlier peeping on women out of not so innocent curiosity, remarked Yamamoto with Naoki going pale at the idea of his sister knowing that. Okay, point taken. No need to get big sis involved. She's been training to use some kind of super strength technique Grandma Mito knows. I don't want to be her punching bag or living test dummy. Pleaded Naoki, knowing his sister would beat the future pervert in him right out. Good lad. Now hurry and go meet your team. And be mindful of what I said about your surroundings. Commanded Yamamoto with Naoki nodding and heading off to take care of his mission. After the boy left the bar, Yamamoto frowned, knowing simple words of wisdom would not be enough to ensure Naoki would come back to Konoha alive, and in one piece. If he truly wanted to ensure the future of the Senju clan and mental stability of Tsunade staying Konoha, it was better for Konoha overall with her in Konoha instead of drinking and gambling for years on end outside of the village, with her skills lessening with each passing day. He would have to do something discreetly to prevent the boy's death and the death of Tsunade's lover to keep Shizune here as well. Naoki sometime later. The boy was terrified. He had every right to be terrified. Senju Naoki just had a near-death experience with a trap set to kill him and his team on this seemingly simple mission to retrieve documents. First, the documents themselves aren't even real, but fake. Second, his team is ambushed by 7 Iwa Nin intent on thinning out the Senju bloodline. And finally third, Naoki was barely able to escape the explosive trap meant for them should things get that far. Had he not listened to Yamamoto's advice, Naoki knew he would be dead right now, and unable to be recognized except with the necklace Tsunade gave him. But his luck and the luck of his team won out. Even more so when all 7 Iwa Nin had been struck down soon after the surprise appearance of Uzumaki Yamamoto. The old man had his sword already drawn and without hesitation or mercy, he killed his enemies like they were nothing, and sheathed his weapon before giving Naoki a once-over. Before smashing the boy into the ground with his fist. Didn't you listen to what I said earlier? Honestly, if I had been 1 minute late getting here, you would be dead. Or maybe severely injured with a near to fatal injury. Of course, maybe it would have made you realize your surroundings are crucial when on a mission. Exclaimed Yamamoto angrily while inwardly happy the boy and his team made it out in one piece. A little banged up, but still alive with fully functioning limbs, and other body parts. Ow. We did. That trap back there would have killed us if I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. Like you mentioned earlier, remarked Naoki while holding his head after the hit by Yamamoto. Had you paid full attention to your surroundings, you would have sensed the 7 Iwa Nin that were in waiting for the trap they set to be sprung. If so, you would have realized sooner this was clearly a trap, and would have retreated before calling in reinforcements to let more experienced shinobi intervene. Countered Yamamoto with another one of his fists hitting Naoki's head. Ow. Stop doing that. I'm sorry. I really am. Pleaded Naoki while Yamamoto sighed at the boy's antics. As you should be, Naoki. Few can ever say they survived near-death experiences as a shinobi. Even fewer from one so young as yourself during a time of war. Let's get you and your team home. The Hokage must be told and to double the patrols around Fire Country to ensure this doesn't happen so often, replied Yamamoto with him escorting the young team back to Konoha. and away from the secret pile of 15 bodies consisting of Konoha's root Anbu. All of whom Danzo assigned to kill the 7 Iwa Nin before bringing Naoki's dead body back to Konoha for the genetic material extraction. Hokage Tower sometime later. While I am glad young Naoki is safe, you had no business being out of Konoha, and interfering in this mission. Exclaimed Hiruzen while glaring at Yamamoto, who looked like he didn't give a damn, and looked back at the Hokage with lazy eyes. And you should screen your missions better, Hiruzen. The mission was clearly a trap of sorts made to kill the boy and his team if possible. The Senju clan bloodline cannot in any way afford to be thinned out any further in this time of war, replied Yamamoto in a semi-lecturing tone. And how do you figure that? Asked Hiruzen with his frown turning into a scowl. The 7 Iwa Nin who set it up made to strike Naoki first. The use of the explosive trap was designed to kill the one among Naoki's team who took point. Namely him. No one else was attacked by those Iwa Nin more than Naoki was during the ambush. The others were hit with disabling attacks and jutsus, but nothing truly lethal. The same could not be said for my distant cousin. Had I not intervened when I did, you would have lost a member of the Senju clan, and leaving Tsunade as the only one truly capable of bringing it back to its former glory. Stated Yamamoto with his eyes narrowing at Hiruzen. All the same, don't do it again, Yamamoto-sama. Tsunade and Mito maybe have your gratitude for such an act, but I don't. I will not have people in my village go out and do such things without going through proper channels. Namely me. Stated Hiruzen while Yamamoto stood up from his chair and looked down at the Hokage. This may be your village now that you are its Hokage. But make no mistake, Hiruzen, I will do what I must to protect my clan, and my cousin clan from total annihilation. If you or anyone else stands in my way should something like this happen again, I will burn this village to the ground, and relocate the survivors worthy of being spared my wrath back to Uzu. Do not test me on this, Yamamoto shot back before leaving the man's office. The moment he did, the Sandaime Hokage slammed his fist on his desk. Damn him, he ruined everything. Orochimaru doesn't have the genetic material needed to begin his experiments in transferring strong bloodlines to others who don't have them. I suppose I could have one of the doctors at the hospital get some of it from him or even Tsunade if we're that desperate. But they will need an excuse for such an extraction, and Orochimaru isn't one to be denied for long. Especially when something stands between him and his goals to further scientific progress, thought Hiruzen while hoping his former student would get the result they were all hoping for and thus pass on the Senju's ever infamous as well as rare Mokuden bloodline. Namely to Hiruzen himself should the results show promise. It was no secret human beings can be envious and jealous of other human beings who wield incredible power. Even if that power was one of genetic design and not one forged from hard work. Such people made other people feel jealous. Hiruzen was no exception to this, as he was jealous of Hashirama, and even Tobirama to some extent in the mastery of their elements. More so with Hashirama than Tobirama, since the former could do what no others even within the Senju clan were able to do. The Mokuden. The very ability to summon trees and wood-based jutsus, not to mention the subduing of the Biju with ease. Kami. It was practically screaming at Hiruzen to take, and call his own. The power to control other forms of power. To be like a god. Hiruzen wanted it. He really wanted it. Hence why Orochimaru was put in charge of the secret project. If anyone could figure it out and get results, it would be his prodigal student. Tsunade would never consent to such a thing due own her family being, secretly, used for it. Not to mention she was going into the medical field over the scientific one. And while the two occasionally intertwined on some level, Hiruzen knew that Tsunade would not go along with such an idea. Even from a medical standpoint due to the ethics involved with most people dying painfully from the body rejecting the bloodlines inserted into them. Jiraiya couldn't do it simply because that wasn't the man's field of expertise, and Spy Master was more into peeping on beautiful women in the hot springs for his research, than finding ways to transfer bloodlines over to others. Not to mention the man had the attention span of a fish the moment a woman with a nice figure walked into the room, and Hiruzen knew Jiraiya would practically demand an all-female staff to help him, if he was remotely interested in such things. My root team I sent to retrieve the Senju brat's body were killed, commented Danzo from the shadows with a frown on his face. He's onto us. I don't know how, but Yamamoto is onto us, replied Hiruzen with a frown on his face. We should remove him immediately. He's a threat to Konoha and our future prosperity, said Danzo firmly with conviction in his voice. Agreed. But not now. Not until after Kushina has the Kyuubi transferred into her. Any sooner and we risk all three leaving for Uzu and the Uzumaki clan closing itself off with the most powerful of all the Biju in their village, replied Hiruzen while Danzo scowled, knowing full well the Hokage was right. I have been having some root Anbu watching him since he arrived here in Konoha to oversee things regarding the transfer from Mito to Kushina. So far, he hasn't met with anyone privy to our plans for being the dominate power among the 5 shinobi villages, said Danzo while Hiruzen frowned. And yet he knew about our plan for having Nawaki killed. That the mission the boy was sent on was in fact a trap. One we allowed to unfold and secretly help along, commented Hiruzen while Danzo was puzzled by this too. A puzzle to be sure, added Danzo with Hiruzen not liking this one bit. Just keep an eye on Yamamoto for the time being, Danzo. The real issue with getting the genetic materials from our prime candidate is only a minor setback at most in this case. We can always spring another trap on Nawaki in the future or use another discreet means of getting what we want from him. It won't be easy, but the things we want in life are, for the most part, usually hard to obtain, commanded Hiruzen while Danzo nodded and left via the shadows of the room. Uzumaki Mito's room. You saved my grandson. Thank you, Yamamoto-sama. I don't think I could take such a loss at this point in my life, remarked Mito while Yamamoto nodded since he knew she loved her grandchildren and wanted to see them reach their full potential. It was an honor, Mito-sama. The boy has spirit and should be allowed to grow as such with it intact in the years to come, replied Yamamoto before his demeanor became more serious. And yet that is not everything you wish to tell me regarding this matter, added Mito in a serious tone since she sensed his emotions become more negative. I encountered poisonous roots lying in wait, Mito-sama. They were waiting for the boy to be killed, whispered Yamamoto with Mito frowning. They wouldn't dare try that. Even Danzo and Hiruzen wouldn't stoop so low as to kill the grandson of their 2 senseis, countered Mito while Yamamoto shook his head. When it comes to the quest for power, personal ties have little strength against greed and ambition for obtaining desired goals, Yamamoto shot back. I see. I'll speak to Nawaki and ensure his training regimen is increased. The same with Tsunade. I won't have this happen again while I'm still alive, remarked Mito while she saw Yamamoto looking at her with sad eyes. I'm sorry to say this to you, Mito-sama, but given how I stopped this moment in time from happening, chances are, they will wait just that long before trying again. My only advice to you is to keep on living. The longer you live, the greater the chance of Nawaki and Tsunade getting strong enough to hold off against such an attempt in the future, said Yamamoto with Mito nodding. I need you to do something for me after I die. It involves the Uzumaki shrine. The one holding the masks connected to the Shinigami, replied Mito before she told him what to do, and Yamamoto nodded since he could make the arrangements with Garp easily. The last thing they wanted to do was leave such powerful items in the hands of people who betray their closest friends for power. Konoha meeting room several years later. We need these medic nins out in the field, Hokage-sama. Instead of a standard 3-nin team, the teams themselves should be reorganized to have 4 nins per team. If not that, then at least one of the 3 should be a medic nin. Think about all the lives we would save and lower the fatality rate. Exclaimed Tsunade while she saw Hiruzen in front of her with Hokage and Homura on either side of him. Not far from her was one Uzumaki Yamamoto, who glanced at her from his position as the Uzumaki clan representative now that Mito had died of old age. She of course had successfully transferred the Kyuubi to Kushina in secret and under the watchful eyes of the oldest Uzumaki in history. Kushina was devastated in hearing what she would have to become since she heard the stories of how other Jinchuriki from the 4 shinobi villages were mistreated when they weren't being used like weapons. How they were all shunned by their villages and some of the people from within even tried to kill them for it. Yamamoto and Mito had been there to comfort the girl, telling her it was all right to be upset, and not to worry since she still had the Uzumaki clan in Uzu. Not to mention she still had Tsunade and Nawaki from their cousin clan. Thankfully, no one except a rare few outside of the clan know the truth. In fact, aside from myself, Tsunade, and Nawaki, only the 3 people in front of us, Danzo, and Jiraiya know the truth. Orochimaru might have been told by Hiruzen as premeditated warning should the snake get into a fight with her in the future. Of course that is me being optimistic here. Danzo more than likely told his most trusted of root nin about Kushina, and I wouldn't put it past Homura or Kaharu to blurt it out to some people they knew would keep it a secret yet still hate Kushina all the same. Slowly planting seeds of distrust and dislike among the higher-ups to make things difficult for the Uzumaki clan when we ask for Kushina to come back to Uzu for visits, thought Yamamoto while he gave Tsunade a supportive nod to her idea. We can't right now, Tsunade. We are still fighting a war with Iwa and Kumo. Kiri may have backed off for now and Suna is considering a ceasefire altogether in light of the political climate within Wind Country changing. But the fact remains we don't have the time or financial means to fund such a project. We have no way to properly train medic nins for the field or configure them into deployment after we did. When the war is over, then the option to fund the project will be considered reopened, and will proceed with it when the time is right. Not beforehand, replied Hiruzen while Tsunade looked angry and shocked the Hokage that was her sensei would say no to this idea. I support her motion, Hokage-sama. With such medic nins in the field, we can easily keep the fatality rates down. As for funding, I'm sure if we asked for donations from the people, and the clans living here, they would donate the funds, added Kato Dan, who was sitting next to Tsunade before giving her a smile. The two had met 2 months ago thanks to Yamamoto. They had hit it off well when they both learned of the other's passion medicine and wanting to use such knowledge to further benefit the village. To bring fatality rates down while doing the opposite for the vitality rate of shinobi during the war or on high-ranked missions. Dan had lost his sister and Tsunade almost lost Nawaki, so their talks about past moments surrounding death or near-death experiences were surprisingly good icebreakers. In fact, the two were now greatly considering seeing each other on a romantic level. And man was it slowly pissing Jiraiya off something fierce. The Hokage's answer is no. Funding aside, this war is not giving us time to train medic nins for the field, and an attempt now would risk losing such skilled shinobi at the hands of the enemy, said Homura in a stern authoritative tone. Furthermore, the medic nins are meant to be kept behind enemy lines, and away from the battlefield. If they were caught or captured, the enemy village could ultimately try to get key pieces of information out of them by torture and interrogation. They will become the weak link in the team, and thus the plan itself to involve them in shinobi teams is a flawed one, stated Kaharu while Tsunade grit her teeth in anger while the meeting soon ended and everyone was leaving. Bastards. They see this more in terms of face value in the short term over the long one. If medic nins are well trained, they wouldn't be the weak link. They just don't want to take the time and effort to make this program a reality. Stated Tsunade angrily while the man beside her known as Kato Dan smiled at the woman. I agree with you, Tsunade. It is unfair that the Hokage and his advisors shot down your idea for adding a medic nin to shinobi teams. I bet Kumo and Iwa would be throwing a small party if they found out about the Hokage's foolishness, said Dan while joking at the end. I'll petition my idea again and again until Sensei finally sees things my way, whispered Tsunade while Yamamoto walked over to them. Your former sensei is a stubborn man, Tsunade. Do not be surprised if he keeps saying no even after the end of the war. To him and the others, such an idea requires a great deal of time and money. All of which Konoha does not want to waste on what they consider to be wasteful ideas, remarked Yamamoto with Tsunade grumbling. I bet Sensei would have taken my idea into account if Orochimaru was in that room and the one who proposed it to him, remarked Tsunade angrily, knowing Orochimaru pushed for a lot of top secret, and also expensive, projects through with Hiruzen listening to all of them with interest. Regardless, I am sure your medic nin program you want can find itself useful in other places outside of Konoha, replied Yamamoto with a knowing smile. You mean, in Uzu? Sure it would. But wait, wouldn't your offer to have it be used by the Uzumaki clan be considered treason? Asked Tsunade with uncertainty. No. For one, the Hokage turned down the proposal. As such, the offer is open to anyone who wants to see it come to fruition. If Konoha won't use your program to save lives and decrease fatality rates, the Uzumaki clan will in their place. Besides, the Uzumaki clan is your cousin clan. If the Hokage makes his grievances known, you can always tell him it was a gift between two related clans. Remember, the man had his chance to get in on the ground floor of this medic nin program and said no, replied Yamamoto with Tsunade thinking it over before looking at Dan. What do you think, Dan? Asked Tsunade with Dan think it over in his mind. It's really up to you, Tsunade. One way or another, I think your idea should be realized. Whether by Konoha or Uzu. It is ultimately your choice. But I will support the decision all the same, replied Dan with the man seeing Tsunade smiling at her. Can you pitch the program to Garp-sama back in Uzu for me, Yamamoto-sama? I can make sure a copy of my idea and how it would work can be sent with the message, offered Tsunade with Yamamoto nodding. Of course. The man is smart enough to see potential new things when they are staring him in the face, and this medic nin idea of yours is not something he will ignore, said Yamamoto, knowing Garp will no doubt embrace this program and get to work on making it a part of their ninja clan policy. I thought as much. Grandmother Mito always spoke highly of him. I was a bit surprised Hiruzen was fighting Garp-sama on the right to bury Mito in Uzu when the time came to discuss where she would be laid to rest, replied Tsunade while the three walked side by side with each other down the streets of Konoha. It is a clan tradition that those of our clan who die, regardless of how it happened, be buried back in Uzu with fellow clan members. Mito may have married Hashirama, but her blood is still, and always will be that of an Uzumaki. Hiruzen had no right to deny my clan Mito's body, remarked Yamamoto while having been there during that meeting with Hiruzen and Garp while making sure the Hokage didn't know the exact route the angry Uzumaki clan head would be going down when heading for Konoha. And it was a good thing too, since it seemed to be quite a bit of hostile activity in the area during that week when Garp was supposed to arrive in Konoha. Coincidence? Not to the Uzumaki clan it wasn't. Garp had called for a meeting with Hiruzen in a letter about him coming to see the Hokage and getting Mito's body to be buried in Uzu. The Uzumaki clan head gave Hiruzen a timetable of when he was going to arrive in Konoha and claim Mito's body regardless of what the Hokage wanted to the contrary. And lo and behold, 2 Anbu teams from Iowa were reported on several major routes that connected to Konoha and Uzu, and Kumo was reported to have had 3 Anbu teams covering the others. With one of the Anbu teams from Kumo encountering Garp, his Anbu, and Yamamoto himself went on his mission to end the escorting. It was clear to them when they arrived in Konoha that Hiruzen was surprised to see they made it to Konoha. Clearly he along with his shinobi advisors did not expect any of the Uzumaki clan members to make to the village in one piece, if at all alive. In fact, you did not need the Uzumaki clan's sensor ability regarding emotions to know the Hokage along with his advisors were upset at the attempt on their lives being a total failure. It was really straining the relationship between the two villages something fierce. I know. Part of me wishes she could have been buried here, but I respect clan traditions, and this is one I know my grandfather would want honored. He adored grandmother so much before he died from what I recall. A hopeless romantic idiot from what great-uncle Tobarama called him, said Tsunade with a smile on her face. He earned his right to marry her. Especially, after the beating I gave Hashirama the day he asked for Mito's hand in marriage, and was willing to do just about anything to marry her. The brat had balls to say that to me, remarked Yamamoto, since the Shinigami had given him the memories of the previous Uzumaki Yamamoto before him. All done to ensure his own cover, as the man wouldn't be blown if asked something only the real Yamamoto would know. Yeah, I know. Grandfather did mention the fight to me one time. From what I heard from great uncle Tobarama, who witnessed it, you beat him almost within an inch of his life, and threatened to kill him if he didn't submit. When he refused, it was only then did you give grandfather your blessing. Why? Questioned Tsunade, since she never did find out why Yamamoto gave his blessing when her grandfather had clearly lost the fight. Because Hashirama refused to stay down no matter how bloody I beat him. I saw it in his eyes at the end. He had heart, courage, and conviction surrounding his love for Mito. Your grandfather was willing to die for Mito, even if it meant never marrying her if I had landed that final blow. I saw a man willing to stare into the face of death for a member of our clan. That in itself made him worthy. A lesser man or anyone else who claimed to have loved her would have just submitted and given up the fight. Hashirama proved his worth that day. Anyone who lays down and submits to the enemy when the ones they love are on the line in some shape or form are not worthy in my eyes. If you want to be with the person you love, you got to fight for them with all of your power. Win or lose, replied Yamamoto while thinking back to his days as Uzumaki Naruto and of a certain Hyuga girl who fought for him when pain attacked. Thinking of the man, who was no doubt a child living again among his fellow kin in Uzu, made the old Uzumaki think about the other two orphans of AIM. Konan and Yahiko. Chances are those two were no doubt in need of help right about now, or at the very least would be in need of some help soon. He would pay a visit to where AIM was located, or at least the area around AIM, in order to find the two and bring them to Uzu. In his own previous life, when in hiding, Uzumaki Naruto had traveled to AIM to pay his respects to the three orphans who had gotten hurt so much during their childhood. While the layout around the outside of AIM may be different now, Yamamoto was confident he could find Konan and Yahiko before they were lost to this war. His thoughts on the issue were interrupted when an Anbu appeared in front of the three of them and bowed respectfully. Yamamoto-sama, Tsunade-sama, your presence is requested by the Hokage at once, said the Anbu before he vanished. It must be serious to get the two of you involved, remarked Dan, since he knew the old Uzumaki in front of them was legend in his own right, and Tsunade herself for her own experience as a shinobi. Clearly. I wonder what he wants? Questioned Tsunade, with Yamamoto shrugging. We will find out soon enough, replied Yamamoto before he walked toward the Hokage tower. Will I be seeing you again after this meeting? Asked Dan with a smile on his face, and Tsunade was now blushing. You know I will. Provided it's not a mission requiring immediate deployment, answered Tsunade, with Dan nodding with a sad smile. If it is, I understand. Just come back safely, whispered Dan before he kissed her and left for his house. Such a wonderful man. Was this what Mito felt like when she was with grandfather? Or was it the other way around? Thought Tsunade, since her parents had kept their romantic life private from her and she knew little of it. Tsunade felt she took after her grandparents more than her parents when it came to her personality when dealing with different emotional moments. At least her brother Naoki didn't act like a pervert like Jiraiya tried to do from the one time she overheard the man attempting to convince the Senju male to help with peeping on all of the women in the hot spring. Tsunade would have bashed both their brains in if not for the fact Naoki refused to help Jiraiya and walked away. She was actually proud of her little brother for resisting, at least up until the point where Naoki basically said all he had to do was just imagine a hot woman of his choice being in the safety of his head. Apparently, women in your mind were safer to see than in real life outside, and not even angry women could take that away from him. He said it with such pride in his voice too. She almost didn't have the hearty resolve to beat the stuffing out of her little brother later that day on principle alone. Almost. In any case, she put those personal thoughts on the back burner of her mind, and entered the Hokage's office with Yamamoto to see the Sandaime Hokage. When they entered the Hokage's office, the two ninjas saw that Hiruzen, Orochimaru, Danzo, Jiraiya, Kaharu, and Homura there waiting for them. All of them were looking quite serious and knew this was something that required their attention. As much as Yamamoto hated Hiruzen and those inside the room sans Tsunade right now, the Konoha he was fighting for needed him, and the people Uzumaki Naruto would one day call friends when born. What's the mission? Asked Tsunade while ignoring the glare Jiraiya aimed at her for a brief second, though Yamamoto made a mental note to smack the man around for it. You, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru are going to aim. There was small contingent of both Iwa and Kumo Nin have been spotted in the area thanks to Jiraiya's spy network. I suspect our enemies are trying to acquire favor with its leader Hanzo, the salamander of AIM. No doubt to have him aid in their cause to attack us from our rear flank. We need an alliance with AIM in order to cause the opposite for our enemies. You three will go there to show Hanzo why you three are my students and Konoha's strength. If you impress him enough with your skills, I am confident he will side with us over Kumo, or Iwa for that matter, said Hiruzen while Yamamoto narrowed his eyes. And why am I here, Hiruzen? Your Anbu said you requested me as well as Tsunade for this meeting, remarked Yamamoto while seeing the Hokage nod to Danzo, who gave the old Uzumaki a mission scroll. The man also ignored how Homura and Kaharu wanted to scold the Uzumaki for his lack of respect toward their teammate. You are going to aim as well, Yamamoto-sama, but for a mission far more dangerous in its design. In the event my students fail to meet Hanzo's expectations and he decides to side with our enemies, you are going to kill Hanzo and his supports, answered Hiruzen with Yamamoto scowled slightly since this mission given to him was extremely fishy for his tastes. Why send me? Why not send Danzo? Or a team of highly trained Anbu? Questioned Yamamoto since he knew Hiruzen well enough to know that sending someone of his level was overkill. It was like sending a fully trained Jinchuriki with control over the Biju's power to fight an infant barely able to walk. Are you questioning Hokage-sama's orders surrounding this mission, Yamamoto-sama? Questioned Homura in a disapproving tone. Such a thing could be considered treason, remarked Kaharu while glaring at Yamamoto with dislike in her eyes. I question the reason to send me. Not the mission itself. It's overkill. Not only that, but what will happen in the off chance I failed my mission after they failed theirs? AIM will see the Konoha and Uzumaki clan as its enemy. AIM is closer to Uzu than any of the other shinobi villages and thus make things problematic for my clan. I have no intention of making my family a bigger target during this war, countered Yamamoto while giving Hiruzen's teammates a glare. Are you not up to this mission, Yamamoto-sama? Given your age, no one would think any less of you, challenged Hiruzen while Yamamoto's eyes narrowed in on him. Do not speak to me about age when compared to your weak monkey. Even now, I could take on everyone in this room, and still have more than enough strength to flatten this village into nothingness, said Yamamoto while flexing his spiritual pressure on the people in the room and made to remind them all that he was far from weak. I stand corrected, replied Hiruzen with great reluctance since he was sadly outclassed by Yamamoto's power and hated it. He hated anything and anyone stronger than himself. I will take the mission, Hiruzen. But I highly doubt you will even need me there to fight Hanzo. Especially, if all three of your students here are as capable as you seem to claim, remarked Yamamoto before walking out of the room with Tsunade right beside him. That old man is a pain, remarked Jiraiya bitterly since he had been watching the old man for a while now and was furious with Yamamoto for getting Tsunade interested in that sissy-looking Kato Dan. Enough, Jiraiya. We don't need you being distracted now of all times from the mission due to your own personal reasons regarding the imaginary romance between yourself and Tsunade, said Orochimaru offhand while Jiraiya bristled in anger. Hey, no one loves Tsunade more than me. Not you, Sarutobi-sensei, and certainly not that sissy boy Dan. Yamamoto-tem got those two interested in each other over their stupid concerns about the medical field. My field is spying, Fuinjutsu, my research I do in the hot springs. Only one interests Tsunade and not in the way I can get her to swoon like she does with Kato Dan. How am I supposed to compete with that? Protested Jiraiya, as he saw Orochimaru roll his eyes. Enough, Jiraiya. I will help you with this Dan person at a later time. Right now, I need you to focus on the task at hand with Hanzo in aim, commanded Hiruzen while Jiraiya just grumbled, but agreed with him. Territory around aim. The two orphans of aim looked up at Yamamoto in fear. They could easily tell this man was strong. He hid it well, but they had seen enough in their short lives to know this old Uzumaki was nothing to mock or sneeze at. He could crush them like bugs. Yet he gave them both a gentle smile. Who are you? Asked the boy on guard against the stranger in this rainy land. A friend, replied Yamamoto calmly. Many have said that to us, said the girl with caution in her voice. And? Questioned Yamamoto curiously. They were all liars, answered the boy. I am not them, replied Yamamoto with the boy and girl looking him over. Why are you here? Asked the boy. I am here for you too, answered Yamamoto with the boy and girl now being put on edge by his words. To hurt us? Asked the girl while the boy moved into a crude fighting stance. No, to help you, answered Yamamoto with the two children looking at him with looks of disbelief. Why would you help us? We are mere orphans. No one wants us, said the girl. It is because you are orphans that I wish to help you, countered Yamamoto with both children looking at him in confusion. That doesn't make any sense, said the girl while Yamamoto let out a huff of annoyance. The reason you are orphans is due to the war between several shinobi villages. The war has finally spilled into aim and you have suffered greatly in the process. I am here to help ensure you do not have to suffer anymore, replied Yamamoto with both children unsure if he was lying or telling the truth. And how do you intend to do that? Asked the boy. By taking you both with me back to the Uzumaki clan in Uzu. To become members of our clan, replied Yamamoto with the boy and girl looking unsure. To Uzu? Asked the girl. Yes. I you both this is a genuine offer. If you say no, I will understand, and will leave you two alone to your own devices here in aim, replied Yamamoto with both children looking at each other. Why are you doing this for us? Why not the other orphans roaming around aim at this point? What makes us so special? Asked the boy since he figured there was more to this moment than they were led to believe. You both have amazing potential to do something with your lives. For good or ill. I wish to see you both reach that potential for the good of all the world, said Yamamoto with the two children looking at him with cautious yet hopeful eyes. I heard if a member of a clan swears on their family honor, they have to follow through with it no matter what. Is that right? Asked the boy. Yes. And the Uzumaki clan, which I am a part of, takes such honor very seriously, said Yamamoto with both the girl and boy looking at each other again. Do you swear on the honor of the Uzumaki clan that your intentions in taking us away from aim are for the right reasons? That this isn't some kind of cruel trap for some sick, twisted, and perverse enjoyment in seeing us be abused in some manner? Questioned the boy with Yamamoto nodding. I swear it on my honor as a member of the Uzumaki clan and on the souls of my clan's ancestors dating back to the time of the Sage of Six Paths himself, replied Yamamoto without hesitation and saw the two children lower their guard. My name is Yahiko, said the boy now identified as Yahiko. I'm Conan, said the girl now identified as Conan. And I am Uzumaki Yamamoto. Actually my full name is super long so I decided to just keep it short at Yamamoto, replied Yamamoto offhandedly at the end. How far away is Uzu? Asked Yahiko with Yamamoto stroking his long beard. It is a country surrounded by water. An island country actually. It's far away from aim, but not too far. Well over 2 weeks if we move fast enough, answered Yamamoto with both children looking a little upset they had to travel 2 weeks with little to nothing to Uzu. Hopefully, this trip would be worth it the long wait. Konoha Hokage's office weeks later. This is inexcusable sensei. He left the three of us to fight Hanzo. And for what? All for 2 measly orphans he took pity on. Exclaimed Jiraiya while Orochimaru and Tsunade were in the room listening to him complain. I too must admit sensei, Yamamoto's action in abandoning us during the mission is most disheartening. This cannot go unpunished, added Orochimaru, though he only added to Jiraiya's defense simply out of his pride being deflated after the defeat he suffered at the hands of Hanzo. Oh, get over yourself. Both of you. Yamamoto-sama shouldn't have gone with us in the first place. Him being there was overkill and all three of you know it, replied Tsunade while she saw the two men in the room trying to have their egos tended to by their sensei. You wouldn't say that if Hanzo killed one of us or was about to kill you. What if your precious Dan or Nawaki was there? And Hanzo killed them? Would you be defending him then? Asked Jiraiya before he was floored by Tsunade with her fist to his face. First off, do not speak to me like that about Dan or Nawaki again. Second, they weren't part of our team, and Yamamoto-sama knew that from the start when he was here for that mission briefing. Third, I know Yamamoto-sama would have never allowed it to get that far with us dying. He clearly had faith in us to get the job done with Hanzo regardless if we won or lost our fight. And finally, Yamamoto gave two orphans, who suffered in this war, partially because of us, a place to live, and be loved in Uzu. It was a loving act and you should show him respect, said Tsunade while she saw Jiraiya on the ground. Sadly, she has a point. Jiraiya thought Hiruzen, knowing his student deserved that hit no matter how much he wanted to scold Tsunade for it. Getting back to topic at hand, sensei. Are you going to punish Yamamoto-sama for his abandoning of his mission in AIM? Questioned Orochimaru curiously. Hiruzen was silent for a second to consider his action on the matter. On the one hand, he could try to impose some form of punishment on Yamamoto for what he did in AIM. On the other hand, if Hiruzen did that, he would have to reveal why Yamamoto was there, and the mission the Uzumaki was sent on wasn't what you would call sanctioned. The Sandaime Hokage had made it seem like mission was when Yamamoto had first decided to question the reason for him being in there. But in truth, the mission was designed to smear the honor of the Uzumaki clan and make Uzu an enemy of AIM in the future. I need time to think about my decision. The Uzumaki clan will no doubt fight me on this since they know what Yamamoto did when bringing the orphans to Uzu. With things strained between us as it is, I don't know if punishing Yamamoto would be good for us right now, said Hiruzen while needing to discuss this with Danzo, Homura, and Kaharu before reaching a decision. Seeing Tsunade nod and leave, Hiruzen saw Orochimaru do the same while giving the Hokage a knowing look before leaving the office. This of course left Jiraiya, who was not done yet after getting off the ground. I want that sissy boy Kato Dan dead, said Jiraiya tactlessly while Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at him. The one you keep saying Tsunade is seeing romantically? Questioned Hiruzen while Jiraiya nodded. I know she is. Or soon will be anyway. She's getting all lovey-dovey with the guy and it's not fair. I loved Tsunade since we were kids. Yet she rejects me for this skinny, bleeding heart, idiot. He'll ruin her. We need to remove him from the village and Tsunade's heart before he has that chance. Stated Jiraiya angrily at his former sensei. Tsunade will clearly be devastated if Dan dies. Jiraiya. What about her feelings on this matter? She will not be so emotionally vulnerable that your advances will be accepted like you think. Jiraiya questioned Hiruzen while Jiraiya scoffed. Tsunade doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't need some wimp like Dan in her life. She needs a guy like me. A manly man like me. Someone who can take care of her every need. I just have to show her the cold hard painful truth and I can't do that unless Dan is removed from the picture, countered Jiraiya while Hiruzen sighed. And what if the two getting together helps produce children to further carry the Senju clan line? Questioned Hiruzen before Jiraiya surprisingly glared at him with surprising anger. No one is allowed to get Tsunade pregnant but me. Understand, sensei? Not Dan. Not Orochimaru. Not some guy on the street looking too lucky. Me. Exclaimed Jiraiya while he had a crazed look in his eyes. I'll look into it, Jiraiya. There are some missions we might be able to use for what you have in mind. I'll have to look at them to find the most promising solution to the little problem surrounding your love life, replied Hiruzen while Jiraiya just nodded before leaving via the window. Tsunade is mine and mine alone. No one will stop me from swooping down and laying claim to my Heim. Not Dan and certainly not that old geezer Yamamoto. He was the one to get Tsunade and Dan together. I have to make sure he doesn't interfere in my plans to rip them apart. Thought Jiraiya angrily at the idea of Dan being with Tsunade and having a happy life together. Jiraiya would ensure his Haim loved him and no one else. Even if he had to kill everyone Tsunade loved around her. When many first saw Uzumaki Yamamoto, they saw only what their eyes perceived, and believed of him in terms of appearance. He looked like an old, sickly, tired man with no form of strength. The legend stated he was back as a young man. Many of the people from merely looking at him based on first glance, would easily assume the man was weak, and a small gust of wind would knock the old man over. Of course, we are reminded of the old adage that appearances can be deceiving. Hence what the many unfortunate Konoha ninja around him at training ground number 22 sadly realized when they were being put through the ringer by Yamamoto in a spar. The man had taken off his coat and upper clothing to reveal the physical body of a god-made flesh. If it weren't for the long beard and wrinkled face, you would never have believed this was the body of an old man, and an Uzumaki to boot. It was almost amusing to Yamamoto to see so many shinobi of Konoha on the ground, moaning in pain, and in need of medical attention. In the time he was here, many shinobi had become less intimidated by him, and claiming the Uzumaki was past his prime, and to just retire from service. They felt it an insult to their pride as young men and women as well as ninja of Konoha that this old man could keep up with them like it was nothing. So they did the only thing that came to mind as those who felt their wounded pride needed to be inflated again. They challenged Yamamoto to a spar. All of them vs Uzumaki Yamamoto. It drew many spectators, civilians and shinobi alike, from simple merchants to Tsunade, Nawaki, Dan, and even the Sandaime Hokage himself. Danzo was also watching with his root in the shadows to assess how great the threat Yamamoto was to Konoha. Even the likes of Orochimaru and Jiraiya were watching from a distance when the fighting started. If you could call it a fight. It left many of the ninja spectators watching to realize this man before them was not what they all assumed him to be in terms of being a weak old man. Of course, Yamamoto could hardly be called weak now when the old Uzumaki had single-handedly defeated a total of 135 shinobi ranging from Chunin to Junin and even a few Anbu in nothing but pure taijutsu. Yamamoto hasn't lost a step. He's how old and still this strong? Thought Hiruzen with a bead of sweat rolling down the side of his face. That's my old man Yama. Kicking and taking names, exclaimed Kushina beside Tsunade and giving a victory sign at Jiraiya, who grumbled at her, and reluctantly gave the woman a large roll of money. Tsunade would have chimed in on the bet, but Nawaki reminded her that every time she bet on something, or someone, she always loses. It earned him a lump on the head via her fist, but in the end Nawaki knew it was totally worth it. Especially when seeing a red-faced Tsunade glaring at Dan when the man snickered at the truth and had to defend himself from the angry woman when she heard it. The strength behind Uzumaki genetics is most impressive. If only everyone were able to share in such a bloodline trait, remarked Orochimaru with a hint of interest in his voice that beneath the layer of minor interest was a much deeper amount of greater interest. For years, his sensei had told him the Senju bloodline was the superior bloodline when compared to the Uchiha clan since both were descended from the Sage of Sixth Paths. Each having the claim from one clan being descended from the eldest son of the sage and the other was descended from the youngest. So the mere richness of each bloodline with their unique abilities was considered to be a grand treasure to be coveted, defended, and protected at all costs. And for the longest time, Orochimaru believed his sensei to be right. At least until today when seeing one Uzumaki Yamamoto, the oldest Uzumaki on known record, smashing through men far younger, and in their prime no less. Yamamoto was well over 100 years old, had been around since the time of the warring clans area before Hashirama, and Madara ended the feud between their clans to form Konoha. It was almost hard for someone with Orochimaru's ingenious mind to comprehend the idea of this old man besting those younger and thus in theory by the natural order of things supposed to be stronger individuals. He knew the Uzumaki clan were cousin clans of the Senju and thus almost them cousins to the Uchiha clan to some small extension. It also gave them a connection to the Sage of Six Paths himself, so they were in the same type of criteria that Hiruzen put the other two. Though why his sensei didn't put the Uzumaki clan in the same category of protection as the Senju or Uchiha clan slightly puzzled Orochimaru. Surely the Uzumaki clan was just as worthy as the Senju or Uchiha. He would have to speak in private to his sensei about that later. Is there anyone else here still wishing to let this spar continue? Asked Yamamoto while he glanced around at the fallen bodies of those he defeated without so much as a sweat. No. We're good, whispered one Anbu on the ground with half his mask destroyed. Letting out a huff, Yamamoto grabbed his upper clothing, and put it on before grabbing his staff, sword with the appearance of being an old man once more making itself seen. Though no one was fooled by it in the slightest and many gave Yamamoto a wide space to walk by with respect for the old man's prowess showing in their eyes. Well, most of the eyes they're watching him. You were awesome as always, old man Yama, exclaimed Nawaki excitedly, which he was always like after seeing the old-looking man beat the snot out of all the other elites in the ninja force Konoha possessed. He was sure a few Uchiha and Hyuga were in that pile of beaten bodies back there. Nawaki, be more respectful, scolded Tsunade while Yamamoto smirked. It's all right, Tsunade-chan. The boy is just being supportive of me. Besides, we all know that Konoha's ninja forces currently needed this major wake-up call by my hands. There has been a growing sense of arrogance among their ranks as of late, replied Yamamoto while frowning while thinking about all the Konoha shinobi walking around with a hint of superiority in their step. You have to admit it yourself, Tsunade-chan, it has been feeling like that for a while. We are currently winning the war against Kumo and Iwa, but it's making some people in the village believe we are invincible. I think we can both agree from a medical standpoint that arrogance is its own kind of poison, remarked Dan since he had overheard some of the drunk shinobi at the bar boast how the other villages were weak and everyone from Konoha were the most superior breed of shinobi in the world. He's right, sis. Konoha needs a kick in the to keep it humble. Otherwise, we'll have a whole generation of arrogant jerks for ninja, replied Nawaki while Tsunade sighed. She's not wrong, cousin, added Kushina while Tsunade raised her hands in surrender. All right, you made your point, exclaimed Tsunade while Kushina, Dan, and Kushina laughed at Tsunade's expense. So, on a different topic, when is the wedding between you two lovebirds, remarked Nawaki knowing it would make Tsunade blush and Dan sputter. And he wasn't disappointed. Well, I don't know. I mean, that is to say, with the war, replied Dan while looking for Tsunade for help, but the woman was glaring at Nawaki, and growling in anger. If I were you, Nawaki, I would run right now before your sister punches you out of the village, remarked Yamamoto with Nawaki doing just that and Tsunade giving chase. You know Tsunade's mood well, remarked Dan while seeing his future wife chasing Nawaki. She is part Uzumaki and thus clearly has our temper, replied Yamamoto with a grin on his bearded face with the sound of Tsunade yelling at Nawaki and Nawaki taunting her. That she is Yamamoto-sama, remarked Dan while a sweat drop formed on the back of his head and heard the sound of a crater made from Tsunade's fist being made with the noise of Nawaki complaining how she nearly hit him. So what is it like to be a genin, my girl? Asked Yamamoto with a hint of pride in his voice as he was now focusing on Kushina. Good. Most of the academy students were wimps. But some have potential to be strong. Except for that girly and thinly looking Minato, replied Kushina with a huff at the end. Don't sell the boy short. He has amazing potential for one his age, replied Yamamoto while Kushina shrugged. If you say so, old man Yama, said Kushina while trying to act like she didn't care and Yamamoto himself was thinking of other matters. The mission that will cause her to be kidnapped is going to happen soon. As much as I want to interfere and save the girl myself, I need those two kids to get together so they can have a child that would be Uzumaki Naruto in the future. The only thing that bothers me about this situation is how did Kumo know how to target her in the other timeline of things? Surely Hiruzen or Jiraiya didn't try to orchestrate it to get Kushina to fall in love with Minato and form a strong, almost unbreakable bond with Konoha in the process. Then again, they probably did with Uzu falling in that timeline, and Kushina never really being able to bond with anyone when arriving in Konoha following that event. But with Uzu alive and functioning, not to mention myself helping her along before and after Mito died, Kushina now has bonds in both places. Though it's more to the people in it rather than the village as a whole, thought Yamamoto with the man glancing at Kushina for a second. Oh, I almost forgot. I never did get a chance to thank you for saving me during that one mission a few months ago. Thank you Yamamoto-sama for that intervention, said Dan, as he saw Yamamoto turn to look at him, and gave the man gentle smile. Yamamoto had waited patiently until Dan's assigned mission by Hiruzen and Jiraiya was given to the man. The old Uzumaki knew the story from his previous life behind Dan's death, from the ambush to the sacrifice made to defeat the enemy in battle to win. How Tsunade had been utterly broken by his loss after Dan had successfully healed her heart following Nawaki's death. Not only that, but the end result had made Tsunade bitter in her belief toward life, made Shizune submissive to her commands, and overall shy while hesitant to do almost anything without the older woman's approval. Which was all the more reason for Yamamoto to step in and change the outcome. When the ambush came, Yamamoto did some ambushing of his own, and with backup in the form of some Uzu Anbu he requested Garp Sen to further provide support. It also gave Yamamoto an excuse to have Garp send his newly reformed Anbu squads complete with medic nins, via Tsunade's medic program, capable of fighting when necessary. Not only did the Anbu from Uzu decimate the ambush aimed at Dan and his team, but they also showed what their squad was capable of with medic nins due to the ambush team severely injuring several of Dan's comrades prior to being rescued. In fact, it was because of the medic nins from Uzu that 2 members of Dan's squad were not only alive, but still had all of their limbs intact. Naturally, the Hokage was not pleased at all by this development, but not in the way most people thought. He was upset. Most thought he was upset because Uzu now had the very reformed medic nin program that Tsunade had wanted Konoha to have at one point for the village. When Tsunade was brought before the Hokage for answers, she told Hiruzen that Yamamoto talked to Uzumaki Garp, the clan head of the Uzumaki clan, about the idea of having the program in Uzu since Konoha didn't want it when they were given the offer. How Garp said yes, was sent a copy of the information Tsunade had on the project, and began to implement on their end. She actually questioned him on why he was upset. Why should Konoha be upset? It went to Uzu since the Uzumaki clan was a long-time ally of Konoha and her cousin clan, with her having blood ties to both. Hiruzen told her to be more careful since even clans with cousin-based relations to other clans can be betrayed for power. Yamamoto, who had been there for that meeting, let out a huff, and mentally called Hiruzen a hypocrite due to him trying to betray Uzu since his taking of the Hokage hat. Still, there was nothing Hiruzen could do on the matter since Konoha had its shot, and failed to get in on the ground floor of this medic nin program. The Shinobi Advisory Council demanded the Uzumaki clan send instructors to Konoha and Tsunade provide notes for their own shinobi to train in, but Tsunade told them no, and so did Yamamoto since it was now considered a clan matter between the cousins. Naturally, it pissed off the higher-ups in Konoha something fierce. Tsunade and Yamamoto reminded them that the village had its chance, but threw it away due to the war, the supposed time, the effort, and of course financial restrictions Konoha claimed to have on itself. All of which got proven to be total bullshit since the Uzumaki clan took all the information Tsunade gave them and created the medic nin program without those issues being a factor. All in all, it had made Konoha's higher-ups now look like a bunch of spineless idiots, with the Hokage looking like the biggest idiot of all. A nice little, yet noticeable blemish on the man's record as Hokage if there ever was one. No problem at all. Tsunade-chan loves you very much. Your death would have hurt her deeply. And little Shizune is a little sister to her too. I wasn't about to have my cousin lose the man she loved before they could marry. I still have to give you the customary Uzumaki beat down like the one I gave Hashirama for Mito's hand in marriage. She may have the Senju name attached, but Tsunade is an Uzumaki as well, and I will be damned if I don't try and see if you have the endurance capabilities to handle what comes with the territory, remarked Yamamoto with a hearty laugh and got a nervous one from Dan in return. I'm going to die by his hands before I get married. I just know it, thought Dan while he hoped Tsunade could convince Yamamoto to give him a break. You should try and visit Uzu sometime. You and Tsunade would love it, commented Yamamoto with Dan nodding. Yes, I hear Uzu is truly thriving. I also hear those 2 orphans you rescued in AIM are doing quite well, replied Dan with Yamamoto nodding. Yes. They are part of a genin team now with another member of my clan. An Uzumaki Nagato, I believe. They are really hitting it off. Calling themselves Team Akatsuki, of all things, remarked Yamamoto since he went back and forth between Konoha and Uzu from time to time. And you suggesting the idea had nothing to do with it? Questioned Dan since he was sure Yamamoto had a hand in it like he usually did things that gained his attention. I don't know what you are talking about, commented Yamamoto innocently enough. Right. And I'm sure you had nothing to do with Jiraiya being strung up on the female side of the hot springs after he was caught peeping so all the women could beat the snot out of him, thought Dan while making a mental note to always be faithful to Tsunade no matter what. He didn't need this old man for an Uzumaki doing something horrible to him now or from beyond the grave. And Dan was quite certain the man would most definitely do the latter. Hokage Tower at the moment. You assured me that the little shit would die, sensei, exclaimed Jiraiya angrily while he saw Hiruzen side at his former student. And he would have died, Jiraiya, if not for the Uzumaki clan sending Anbu there to help step in at the last moment, replied Hiruzen bitterly after the pause in his response. Damn Uzumaki clan. They always meddle when they get involved in something, said Jiraiya angrily while Hiruzen nodded in agreement. I know the Hyuga clan being chief among them. Yamamoto has been hounding them for months about their cage bird seal and making one that all the Hyuga clan can wear. Apparently, he is in fact, the maker of the original cage bird seal, remarked Hiruzen while seeing Jiraiya looking floored by this news. You're shitting me. Him? Questioned Jiraiya while Hiruzen shook his head. No, I'm not. Though what the Hyuga use now is different than the one he gave them. It was apparently called the Dojutsu Protection Seal and did everything the cage bird seal does now, except it didn't cause the people wearing it any pain when a certain hand sign is used, explained Hiruzen with Jiraiya looking smug. Well, I guess Mr. I'm such a great Fuinjutsu master, isn't so great at his craft after all if the Hyuga could alter it into what they want, mocked Jiraiya while Hiruzen frowned further. Shut up, Jiraiya. You aren't one to talk when it comes to your Fuinjutsu skills even if you are called a master. He can make your work look like crap. I have seen the samples done by him when compared to your own. It outshines you by far, said Hiruzen with Jiraiya letting out grumble. Yeah, well, I'm a better peeper at the hot springs, so I have that, whispered Jiraiya, which caused Hiruzen to sweat drop at his defense, pertaining to his work in Fuinjutsu. That aside, Yamamoto brought it to everyone's attention that the Hyuga clan signed a binding contract stating their clan wouldn't alter, change, or basically overall butcher the original design, said Hiruzen with Jiraiya wincing since he knew what that meant. And let me guess, Yamamoto has all the records to back up his claim on the issue, said Jiraiya with Hiruzen nodding. With additional copies of the contract also located in Uzu. He brought it up at the last meeting when Hyuga Hibachi had enough of Yamamoto's protest and demanded proof of such things being done. Yamamoto had everything on hand to present to the councils and the other clan heads. From the contract signed by all parties involved, including Hibachi's own grandfather, and even father were on it. All the way to showing the actual seal he made, what it did, and where it was best to place it on a member of the Hyuga clan. Apparently it would be well hidden on the back of the neck behind their long hair instead of the forehead, remarked Hiruzen while Jiraiya nodded. What did Hibachi say to that? Asked Jiraiya with Hiruzen sighing. He claimed the contract was a fake and the signatures were forged. Not to mention he called the dojutsu protection seal inadequate and thus shouldn't be used since it did not provide proper hierarchy structure to any clan who chooses to use it, replied Hiruzen with Jiraiya sighing. So he tried to bullshit his way out of it, surmised Jiraiya with Hiruzen nodding. Pretty much yes. Yamamoto told Hibachi if he didn't change things within his clan now, there would be bad blood between the inner parts of the clan in the future that would go so deep, even the fear of the usage of the cage bird seal wouldn't stop the branch family from one day taking revenge. Hibachi of course misread the words as a threat made by Yamamoto to his clan and banned any Uzumaki from ever entering the Hyuga clan compound in fear one of them would try, said Hiruzen while Jiraiya shook his head. What does the fire daimyo have to say about this? Such matters normally reach his ear and gain his attention when one or both parties yell loud enough, questioned Jiraiya with Hiruzen sighing. Right now, the current fire daimyo is hoping we resolve this internally before being forced to intervene. I told him we would handle this issue, but according to the laws in place, I might have to side with Yamamoto on this. I don't want to for obvious reasons, but if I go against him, I risk the old man revealing other matters both of us can't afford to see brought into the light, replied Hiruzen with Jiraiya scowling. Meaning what we did in terms of secretly betraying Uzu. I still say they can't prove it, said Jiraiya with Hiruzen shaking his head. Among other things, namely our actions pertaining to the near death of Senju Nawaki and our more recent attempt to get rid of Tsunade's future husband Dan. He made it quite clear that our hidden actions could be proven if we challenge him further, added Hiruzen while Jiraiya snarled at that last part. I'll kill the bastard myself if he marries Tsunade. I don't care if I become a missing nin for it. I'll kill him, go into hiding for years on end, and you can pardon me as your last act as Hokage before your successor takes over so no one can lay a hand on me, commented Jiraiya with Hiruzen giving him a hard look. You will do not such thing Jiraiya. I need you and your spy network. I can't have either one if you're a missing nin on the run. I can't protect you. I can't cover for you. And I certainly can't stop Tsunade from hunting you down to do unspeakable acts of vengeance upon your person after you're tried, said Hiruzen while Jiraiya looked like he wanted to punch something. So that's it, huh? Just let that sissy boy marry Tsunade Haim. My Tsunade Haim. To let him pollute her bloodline with his own? Questioned Jiraiya with Hiruzen scoffing. Spare me all of your theatrics Jiraiya. Your own bloodline heritage isn't anything worthy of being praised about and you know it. Remember, you have been an orphan all your life while Dan is not. Between the two of you on bloodlines alone, Dan has you beat. Unless, you can provide undisputed proof that you are the son of some great high-ranking clan, or even the long-lost child of our own fire daimyo himself, you are outmatched, replied the Sandaime Hokage with Jiraiya now gritting his teeth. You know I don't have such proof, stated Jiraiya angrily. Then shut up about it. What's done is done. Besides, this will be blessing for Konoha in the long run. For years, Tsunade has ignored, shunned, or punched out every male suitor until Dan came along. We need more Senju clan members Jiraiya. Nawaki will find his own girl soon enough and Tsunade with Dan will help us have more than just two among our ranks. Meaning we can easily acquire the genetic material from those future children under the medical reasons for Orochimaru's research plans. Konoha will still get stronger as time goes by. Everyone wins, exclaimed Hiruzen firmly while Jiraiya glared. Not everyone, replied Jiraiya while he moved to leave. I am warning you this one time Jiraiya. Do not go after Kato Dan. I only indulged you in your request at the time to have him killed because I thought it was the better choice. I also had hoped you could convince Tsunade to be with you in the years to come and the two of you could produce a child capable of being greater than either parent. But now the window to that option has long since been closed and cannot be opened again. Just let it go, commanded the Sandaime Hokage with Jiraiya scowling deeper. Never, whispered Jiraiya before leaping out of the window. Damn it Jiraiya, your obsession will become a problem for me and Konoha in the future to come. I just know it, commented Hiruzen, since his student always did act foolishly and made everyone associated look bad. Senju clan home sometime later. So Minato saved you from those Kumo nin, huh? Well, good for him. I always knew that boy had a decent-sized brain in his head, commented Tsunade while Kushina blushed a bit, both in embarrassment at being captured, rescued, and finally regarding Minato saving her. It's nothing special. I just let some of my hair out to leave a trail. He even mentioned how nice my hair was and I shouldn't try to take out too much, replied Kushina while she tried to hide her blush. What's this? You're blushing. Does my dear fiery tomboy for a cousin have a crush on one Namikaze Minato-kun? Questioned Tsunade, with Kushina now blushing further and glaring at the Senju. Says the older woman, who only now is getting married prior to entering her hag years in life, countered Kushina, with Tsunade's forehead sporting a tick mark. What did you say? I am not old in the slightest, exclaimed Tsunade while Kushina shot a raspberry at her. So you say, but I can already see the color gray forming in your blonde hair. And is that a wrinkle? Teased Kushina, with Tsunade getting angrier. That's it. You are dead, yelled Tsunade before the two ran around the room, with one chasing the other. Well, now I know where I get it from, thought Yamamoto, with the old man smirking at the sight of the two causing chaos around him. How he was going to miss it when dead. The Shinigami had appeared before him just last night in a dream and told Yamamoto his time was almost up. The second shinobi war was coming to an end soon. Dan was alive, Nawaki was alive, the Uzumaki clan was alive, and most of the dark things that led to more dark things in the future were no longer possible. Yamamoto knew Madara was still alive, in hiding in his little lair, waiting for his opportunity to find someone to carry on his legacy, and the will that was in fact Kagaya's own. She had used her own influence to poison Madara's mind beyond repair because of his already upset attitude toward his life, made him an easy target between her choice in targets. She could have targeted the Senju line, but Hashirama put a stop to that with his outlook toward life, and the Uzumaki clan were following him in that regard too. Hence the one side with hatred on the Uchiha's side already in their heart being the prime targets. Some things will sadly have to occur from what the Shinigami told me. Like how Uchiha Obito becoming Madara's pupil and trying to let Kurama out of his seal to attack Konoha. But unlike last time, there will be good number of Uzumaki clan members present, and I would ensure a repeat of before doesn't happen. Konoha wouldn't be attacked by the fox, no one would die, and no one would know Uzumaki Naruto was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, thought Yamamoto, as he would leave instructions for Garp, and the Uzumaki clan in general to be read following his death for the day when the Kyuubi would be sealed inside of his future self. Provided, of course, his mother or father sealed it into him on the night of his birth. There was always a possibility that outcome would change. Still, so long as Obito failed in his mission, it should be enough. At least for a time. For now, all Yamamoto had to do was hold on to his life long enough to ensure certain issues didn't happen following his death. 2 weeks later. Uzumaki Garp was reading a long, yet important letter sent by Yamamoto, and it was not a good one. The letter stated the old man was finally feeling his age and that his days of living were numbered. In his letter was a set of instructions regarding certain issue to be carried out upon his death, and all of them surrounded Konoha. The letter went on to state that Uzu was to keep Konoha at an arm's distance in terms of friendship until Hiruzen was no longer Hokage and the man's advisors along with a certain war hawk for arrival to the seat were dead. To alter its security system so no one in Konoha except those Yamamoto listed could be trusted, and to destroy the secret tunnel entrance before rebuilding a new one. Not only that, but Yamamoto insisted that when Kushina became pregnant with a child of her own, why Yamamoto thought that Garp had no idea, she should have the said child in Uzu, and under heavily guarded protection. In the possible event they can't have her come to Uzu, they were to secretly enter Konoha, and not reveal themselves until the last moment. To use all their skills to protect Kushina during the birthing process that would risk the fox escaping. Garp of course read the hidden meaning behind the letter stating those in Konoha would be frothing at the mouth for the power they were going to one day be waiting for that moment of weakness should they see an opportunity to take the Biju from Kushina into another Uzumaki. Possibly her own child if what the letter implied was indeed accurate and they would ensure the child suffered. The Uzumaki clan knew all about the abuse Jinchuriki went through in other villages and thought Hashirama was an idiot to divide them up without considering how the people of each village would use them. Both Yamamoto and Garp wanted to smash their fists into the man if he were alive here today. Mito's husband or not. This letter is seriously troubling. Yamamoto was the one who ensured our survival all those years ago when the Second Shinobi War was at its peak of violence. Not to mention he saved our cousin clan member Nawaki and Tsunade's lover Kato Dan in the belief that their deaths would hurt Tsunade. At first I questioned how he knew, but shrugged it off as an old man's wisdom, instincts, and intuition being razor sharp from years of experience. But no, this warning is not just a warning. This letter is basically of blast it all. What's the word? Premonition. Yes. A premonition. A foretelling of the future and of things to come if we don't act. Mito clearly trusted him to get the Shinigami masks from the shrine here in secret. She trusted him to watch over Kushina after she died in Konoha. Hell, I trusted him long enough to see he was indeed a full-blown Uzumaki in every sense of the word. He saved our clan from total annihilation several times over. If I don't listen to him now when this might be his last final act in warning us, I might as well be a total idiot. Thought Garp before calling for his most elite Anbu within the clan. Yes, Garp-sama, asked the Anbu captain of Uzu. We're going to strengthen and alter our defenses. Do it quietly. I want new security seals, detection seals, traps within traps, and everything else we can do to fortify Uzu. I want Uzu so well defended, we could withstand a Biju bomb, and still be able to flip the said Biju off. Exclaimed Garp while his Anbu team in front of him sweat dropped. Garp-sama, you're being overly dramatic again, commented one of the Anbu before being punched in the back of his head by Garp. I am not. Now get to it. I have a letter here from Yamamoto-sama himself. From what the message he sent to me states, the man foresees trouble ahead if we don't do something about this, and fast. Stated Garp angrily while shaking his fists at the now scared group. Yes, Garp-sama. Right away, said the Anbu captain before his team left after picking up their fellow Anbu who was on the ground. Yamamoto-sama made it clear that Konoha might try something like they did before in the future. Was he referring to another shinobi war? And if so, when will that happen? No matter, I have to put things in place before that happens, thought Garp before he was back at his desk making additional preparations for the future. Konoha 4 months later. Uzumaki Yamamoto was dead. Confirmed by Tsunade herself. She cried of course like all those that knew him. 'Cause of death. Natural. The man died in his sleep. Peacefully. Happy. It was clear to the woman that the old man had faith in the future being bright with a few cloudy spots, but nothing those he knew couldn't endure. The man had done so much for Uzu, his cousin clan, and Konoha to a slightly lesser extent. It was a blow to the Uzumaki clan to know such a great man had left this world and only after the Second Shinobi War ended just 1 month ago. He even left Kushina a nice large home to call her own right near the Senju clan compound after secretly purchasing the plot of land before constructing it. The old Uzumaki informed her of it in his will and where it was located so she could dispel the genjutsu for herself. Yamamoto explained in his will the house was big because, you will need it one day when having a family of your own one day with that special man in your life. Which caused Kushina to blush when read out loud since she had a good idea on what he meant and who he was referring to in terms of that special man. When Tsunade presented the report to Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage hid the happiness he felt knowing the old Uzumaki was dead. The man had been a pain in the Sandaime's side for so long, it was almost hard to imagine Yamamoto had died, and could not longer influence things in Konoha. The Hyuga clan had been on the defensive for so long due to the push for a reform regarding the division of their house. Now with Yamamoto dead, the issue would hopefully stay buried again, and the Hokage was sure he could keep any further complaints made by Kushina at bay. Oh, if only that were true. I need to get access to that man's body. Or get Orochimaru to gain access to it before the body starts to rot. Once he has enough Uzumaki genetic material, I'm sure he can use it to find a way to extend our lives beyond the normal expectations. Once we mix it with the material I can gather from the Senju clan, the means of being truly immortal with god-like powers will be in our grasp, thought Hiruzen while smirking at the idea of living for so long and using the various powers given by such bloodline splicing to control unfathomable power. I take it you heard? Asked Danzo while appearing from the shadows. Naturally. Tsunade just left to mourn his death in private. I take it you feel some form of emotion known as happiness, in that emotionless husk you call a body, Danzo. Perhaps a small smile? Questioned Hiruzen with Danzo staying emotionless the whole time. Emotions are for the weak, Hiruzen. I feel nothing for Yamamoto in terms of reaction to his death. I didn't care for him when he was alive and his death is no different. I take it Orochimaru will be informed shortly so he can acquire some genetic samples from the corpse for testing. Countered Danzo with Hiruzen smirking at the predicted answer. Yes. Though my student might already know and doing it right now. Currently, the body of Yamamoto is currently in the morgue. Easy enough to sneak in, take what is needed, and sneak back out without anyone knowing, replied Hiruzen while Danzo nodded. The Uzumaki clan will come to claim his body. We should destroy it and claim some kind of accident caused such an outcome, offered Danzo since it would be so easy to do that. A final act of revenge against Yamamoto, I take it. And to hurt the Uzumaki clan no less. Questioned Hiruzen since the idea did have some appeal to him. They set our master plan back by several decades. They ruined our chances of becoming without dispute the strongest village of the major five. They don't deserve anything we have in Konoha. They don't deserve anything. I say deny them what they claim is owed and never apologize for it, stated Danzo harshly while stomping his cane angrily at the man. Hiruzen saw how Danzo was gripping his new cane tightly in his one remaining hand and remembered how Yamamoto had crippled him 3 months ago. Danzo had tried to approach Yamamoto in private in the belief he could turn the man to his side in overthrowing Hiruzen for the title of Hokage. Hinting that the old man should assist him in removing the Sandaime because of the man's past sins against the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan. Danzo was not innocent in the schemes concocted either, but he was sure Yamamoto did not know that, and decided to press onward in the belief that he could effectively manipulate the Uzumaki into unknowingly be his weapon. Only to have Yamamoto draw his sword and slice into Danzo with deadly precision. The old Uzumaki took Danzo's right arm and eye and used the fire manifesting ability of his Zanpakuto to cauterize the wound instantly. The platoon of Root Nin in hiding rushed to their master's defense, but were instantly burned alive, and turned into ash before Danzo's remaining horrified eye. The man couldn't even go to the Sandaime Hokage since Root shouldn't even exist now due to Hiruzen having, officially, ordered Root be disbanded now that the Second Shinobi War was over and would only be brought back out should another one manifest itself. Do not test me, Shimura Danzo. Or you will find that there are worse things to fear than death. Even now the sting to his pride, dignity, body, and soul still stung Danzo fiercely since he was unable to recover from such injuries. Thus forcing him to retire from being an active shinobi, and Hiruzen had put him on as a third shinobi advisor. Both to help keep Danzo close by to take a fall if Hiruzen felt it was necessary and to ensure the crippled man felt he was still important to some extent. Like Danzo, the Sandaime Hokage saw people as tools. But unlike Danzo, the Sandaime Hokage still saw how to use broken tools over throwing them away. Tsunade had of course tried to heal his injuries, but the Sannin had told Danzo it was not possible, even with her skills. At best could give him a new eye to replace his lost one so he could see better. Danzo turned it down though since he didn't want a normal weak eye to replace his sharp one. Yes. I'm sure the permanent mark Yamamoto left on your body and soul has nothing to do with it, commented Hiruzen while smirking at Danzo's crippled state and knew the man was lying straight through his teeth. Konoha the morgue. Ah, the body of Uzumaki Yamamoto himself. Such an intriguing figure. Even in death, his form still looks as imposing as ever. He doesn't even look dead. Just asleep. Don't you agree, Jiraiya? Remarked Orochimaru with a grin on his face since he sensed Jiraiya here in the morgue seconds after arriving himself. Yeah, my heart is all aflutter. Hurry up and get what you need, Orochimaru. I want my time to spit on the corpse and give his stupid wrinkled face a punch to take to the other side, commented Jiraiya angrily since he was pissed that not only was Tsunade married to that sissy boy Dan, but not long after their honeymoon, she was pregnant. She even had the nerve to say that if the child was a in fact boy, it would be named after Yamamoto. It was insulting. Jiraiya felt she should be having his child. Not Dan's. His. Jiraiya of the Sannin. It was not fair. Oh, stop complaining, Jiraiya. Besides, Tsunade made it clear to you a long time ago that she was not interested in you on such a romantic level. Go write a book or something. It just might help you clear your head of the useless junk swimming within it, commented Orochimaru while Jiraiya bristled at the insult to his mind. Shut up, Tem, exclaimed Jiraiya angrily before he saw Orochimaru frowning. Interesting. There is some kind of seal here, remarked Orochimaru while he began his own examination of the old Uzumaki. What seal? Let me see, exclaimed Jiraiya before shoving Orochimaru out of the way and began to examine it himself. Only for the seal to suddenly activate, and to their shock and sudden horror, the eyes of Uzumaki Yamamoto opened once more. The old man was alive. And currently had both Sannin by the throat in an iron grip. I see. I have been dead for less than a day and already you are here to pilfer from my corpse like vultures smelling dead flesh, commented Yamamoto angrily before sitting up and looking the two dead in the eyes. How? Questioned Orochimaru while Jiraiya was thinking the same thing. You would be surprised what can be sealed away. While this sudden return is in fact only temporary, it's more than enough time needed to take care of you two for your past sins, answered Yamamoto with Orochimaru and Jiraiya realizing what he had done. Somehow, the old Uzumaki actually sealed away a part of his life force until a certain moment in time where it would unlock, and give Yamamoto a temporary second life. We don't know what you are talking about, exclaimed Jiraiya before finding the grip on his throat tighten. Do not take me for a fool, Jiraiya. I know you two conspired with Hiruzen to destroy my clan. I know it was you two who conspired with Hiruzen to kill Nawaki for his genetic material to use in the unethical experiments Orochimaru here was performing. And I also know it was you, Jiraiya, who conspired with Hiruzen, and tried to have Dan killed simply because he was going to marry Tsunade. I spared your miserable lives the much-needed death you two deserved because it wasn't your time to die. Now that is no longer an issue. The world has no further need of whelps like the two of you. Exclaimed Yamamoto with his grip on them increasing. We weren't the only ones. Danzo was part of it too. So were Kaharu and Homura, said Jiraiya in an attempt to direct the Uzumaki's wrath to them over himself. I know that, you idiot. I know a many great things you have done. What Orochimaru has done. What Hiruzen has done. What Danzo has done. And of course what his advisors have done. They will all pay at a later time. Right now, you are the only deaths I need to concern myself with, replied Yamamoto before calling forth his Zanpakuto's power with his mind setting the room ablaze. What are you doing? Stop. Stop. We'll be burned alive, pleaded Jiraiya while looking into Yamamoto's eyes and saw they were unwavering. You say that as if I should care. I made my intentions perfectly clear to my clan what was going to befall me while in Konoha upon my death. They don't need my body. Just my sword. And I assure you, it will survive this fire moving to consume us because it is the fire. My will of fire, exclaimed Yamamoto while the flames became more intense. No, I have so many potential test subjects I need to gather and experiment on. Theories that need testing, thought Orochimaru while trying to get out of the man's grip, but was finding it impossible. And he had just heard of the rumors of where to find the legendary Kusanagi too. Your tainted souls shall be purged from this world. Nothing will change that. In doing so, the future will be a much better place for all. Not just Konoha like you intended with the Sandaime in some firm belief you could ascend to some form of godhood, finished Yamamoto before the fire moved in on all three of them. Damn you! Yelled Orochimaru and Jiraiya angrily as the fire consumed all three of them before causing a massive explosion. When the Hokage, Tsunade, Kushina, and a team of Anbu entered the scorched area hours later upon deeming it safe, all that remained was one Uzumaki Yamamoto's Zanpakuto. Fully sheathed, in the middle of the room, and looking completely fine. As if it had not just been in an enraging inferno an explosion earlier that day. Hiruzen scowled angrily at the sight. He knew both his students had been here when this unexplained explosion and fire happened earlier. He knew Yamamoto was involved. He knew that this sword was the source of the fire that consumed his two students. That this sword caused the explosion to bring about the figuratively placed icing on the cake. If it weren't for the fact Tsunade and Kushina were here, he would use all his strength, and his power to break the damn thing into multiple pieces. Sadly, Tsunade along with Kushina were in front of the sword before he could even give the order to his Anbu to get the sword. At the very least, Hiruzen intended to seal the damn thing away, use some kind of excuse that it was too powerful for anyone else to wield, and bury it deep in the Hokage vault. Before he could tell Tsunade or Kushina to give him the sword, they were already heading out the door. Where are you heading with that? Asked Hiruzen with Kushina holding it tightly. We're sending it back to Uzu. Where it belongs, answered Tsunade stiffly while she did not look at her former sensei. That is not going back to Uzu. It's going in the Hokage vault and be sealed away until further notice, ordered the Sandaime with Kushina glaring at him. It's part of the Uzumaki clan. Hence it belongs in Uzu, countered Kushina with the Sandaime Hokage scowling. It's a sword. Nothing more. Anyone can wield it and as such I won't allow its power to fall into irresponsible hands, stated Hiruzen while Kushina glared at him. You never liked old man Yama. You always hated him. You, Danzo Tem, Orochi Tem, and Ero Sennin, remarked Kushina while Hiruzen frowned while knowing he had to tread very carefully. I didn't hate him, Kushina. I just didn't approve of him constantly interfering in matters that were not something he should be interfering with in the first place. Regardless of his intentions, countered Hiruzen while the two women glared at him. He only interfered when the time called for it. Because of his interference, both Nawaki and Dan are alive today. Uzu is alive and a strong reliable ally with them using my medic program to bolster their strength. The man helped make the transition for Kushina being here easier. He was going to unite the Hyuga clan into a single united house through legitimate means. Exclaimed Kushina while Hiruzen, since he knew most of the clan heads, San the Uchiha and Hyuga clan heads supported Yamamoto on many occasions. Regardless, his sword is still too dangerous for anyone to wield. Look what it did here in this room, Tsunade. Kushina. Because of his weapon, Jiraiya and Orochimaru are now dead. The village is now weaker because of him. Stated Hiruzen while Tsunade glared at him. And just why were those two here in the first place? Neither of them had the right to be here. Much less to see him, said Tsunade while Hiruzen bit back a curse at the slip-up of mentioning those two being here. I don't know, but I'm sure it was to pay their respects to such a great man, lied Hiruzen while Kushina and Tsunade glanced at each other. You didn't need to be an Uzumaki censor to know the Hokage was lying about that. I doubt it, sensei. Regardless, I'm not surrendering Yamamoto-sama's sword to you or to Konoha. I have already spoken to Garp-sama about this prior to now. He's claiming the sword as a clan relic and thus will not allow Konoha to have the sword in the village's possession. Something about Konoha's tainted fire, in the letter when reading his reply, said Tsunade while Hiruzen glared at her. And I'm saying the sword is not theirs to claim. I don't care what clan Yamamoto was born from. That sword is not leaving Konoha or the vault. It is my command as Hokage and it will obeyed. replied Hiruzen while the Anbu moved to take it from Kushina. Try and Uzu will end the alliance with Konoha. Not only that, but the Senju clan will leave this village, and any other clan that chooses to follow, threatened Tsunade with Hiruzen looking shocked before frowning and ordered his Anbu to freeze with a simple gesture of the hand. You would abandon the village your family helped build? Questioned Hiruzen while Tsunade glared at him. If this village is going to spit on the legacy of my family, then yes, I will leave it to fall down because of people like you who are causing it to rot from the inside. Just admit it, sensei. Ever since you have become Hokage, there has been an ever-growing dislike for the Uzumaki clan here in Konoha. Kushina saw it growing up and was able to endure it thanks to Yamamoto-sama and Grandma Mito. I saw it too. So did Nawaki and even Dan as the years went by when looking at the people. There was even the 3 different failed break-in attempts at the Senju clan home with evidence suggesting the culprits were after Uzumaki clan secrets. The fact someone tried to enter using means only a friend could get into the home in secret suggests someone inside Konoha was responsible. At first, I thought the people were hating the Uzumaki clan because Kushina herself wasn't from here originally. But now I realize they are doing it due to them being stupid and arrogant while someone high up has been secretly urging them on, replied Tsunade while her former sensei just stared back at her and she knew he knew about them. What she didn't know was Jiraiya was the one behind them. But the Uzumaki seals when it came to security were second to none. Jiraiya had barely managed to make it out of the house all 3 times barely alive. He was, officially, on a long-term mission during each attempt so no one would question if the man suddenly came back to Konoha with a new understanding of Fuinjutsu. Jiraiya also had to lay low following these events due to his injuries requiring time to heal, and it was only due to his false alibi that no one suspected it was him. Though Hiruzen was now wondering if perhaps Yamamoto knew, but chose not to reveal anything because he decided it was better used as optional leverage in the future. Hiruzen also wondered if perhaps Tsunade and Kushina knew due to Yamamoto telling them so they would keep their guard up around Jiraiya. That's a heavy accusation to be made by you, Tsunade. One close to being called treason if the implication in your voice behind it being me is any indication, remarked Hiruzen while Tsunade just looked at him. Is it true, sensei? Swear on the life of your wife and children that you had nothing to do with any of it. Or the law you tried to pass stating those born of foreign nationality can never become Hokage. Even if the person proves they are not only qualified, but loyal to a fault, and have served Konoha faithfully. You know, the one you tried to push through when neither Nawaki nor myself were around to vote against due to missions when the time came to decide on the issue, questioned Tsunade while Hiruzen glaring at her. That law is to protect us from foreign people from becoming the leader of this village and destroying us from within. Who is to say a ninja from another village like Iwa or Kumo leaves under the pretense of defecting, becomes Hokage years later, and then uses his or her position to weaken us to the point where our enemies can crush us with ease? Challenged Hiruzen while Tsunade and Kushina stayed silent for a second before Tsunade smirked. You didn't deny being a part of the past crimes I mentioned earlier, remarked Tsunade while Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. I am the Hokage. You don't have the right to judge me on my decisions whether they are possibly ethical or not. In this case, every action I have done is beyond reproach. Now give my Anbu that damn sword or you too will be thrown in jail for treason and kept there until the next Hokage is appointed, threatened Hiruzen while Kushina's eyes were now narrowing before she felt a faint pulse of assurance from the sword. Getting what the sword was telling her, Kushina stepped forward to the total surprise of Tsunade, and gave it to the Anbu captain. Only, as soon as she let go of it, Kushina, Tsunade, Hiruzen, and the other Anbu with them watched in horror as the new holder was consumed in fire by the sword and turned into ash. Not worthy to hold. Those were the 4 words that echoed throughout the room before the now hovering weapon flew to Kushina's hands. You knew that would happen, accused Hiruzen while Kushina smirked. Prove it, Kushina shot back while Hiruzen continued to glare. Face it, sensei. You lost this round. Orochimaru and Jiraiya were here to see Yamamoto-sama's body unlawfully. They paid the price for whatever reason they were down here with their lives. So did that Anbu just now in trying to take Yamamoto-sama's sword from Kushina. How many more people have to die until you get the message? Remarked Tsunade with her former sensei saying nothing. Let's go. Garp-sama will want this back in Uzu immediately, commented Kushina with Tsunade nodding. Damn it. If another Uzumaki clan member wields that blade, it will mean someone on par with Yamamoto himself will be around to cause problems. Add in Orochimaru's own death and Jiraiya's has damaged Konoha considerably. With the former's R&D projects and the latter's spy network being stalled in the process. It means we will have to rely on the unreliable minds in R&D to fill Orochimaru's genius-filled sandals and the Uzumaki clan for picking up the slack surrounding Jiraiya's spy network. The former isn't that much of a problem, but the latter requires we lean on Uzu more for support, and they have made it clear they are not above cutting ties with those they deem an enemy if the signs are there, thought Hiruzen while upset the Uzumaki clan was so influential within Konoha right now. Hiruzen still couldn't believe the Uzumaki shrine was removed of all the masks with the contents sent to Uzu and the temple itself was destroyed by Yamamoto himself. He had intended for Orochimaru to secretly visit the temple after Mito died to see if the man could learn the secrets behind it. Kushina wouldn't have been an issue since Hiruzen would have kept her away from it, but Yamamoto, Mito, and the Uzumaki clan had all meddled in his schemes. Preventing the near annihilation of the Uzumaki clan or order to monopolize the right to having the Kyuubi in Konoha. The Senju clan having a second chance to rise up again after their own moment of near extinction and thus prevented Hiruzen from monopolizing their power for his own gains. Taking of the Shinigami masks from the Uzumaki clan shrine. Those could be used to free any soul from the Shinigami and thus could possibly be used to cheat the deity of any soul in its possession. Namely himself. Hiruzen wanted to live forever to wield the power of a god and crush his enemies underfoot without anyone knowing the truth until it was too late to stop him. Many would tell Hiruzen that his children were his true legacy and true means of immortality, but the Sandaime Hokage thought those people telling him such things were idiots. His children or future grandchildren weren't an extension of immortality for him. Only immortality was considered immortality. His only hope now in salvaging this situation was finding the perfect successor to his title as Hokage and ensure this person finished it. Or at least found a way to bring him back in a way that would allow Hiruzen to live forever afterwards. Something Hiruzen himself knew he would quite possibly not given how long it would actually take to remotely fix his plan and train a worthy successor to carry said plan out. Because even Hiruzen knew that even with the Edo Tensei, for all its greatness, it was not true immortality, and the titled Kami no Shinobi had no intention of being a puppet to the one using it on him.